Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode, you know what? This is a non-numbered episode. This is a rebroadcast because I did have to go to Boston in the end to go get my passport renewed, so I lost the time to re-record. I was going to do 2 episodes for while I'm gone, but it's not going to work out. So this is a rebroadcast of my most popular blogcast. By a lot. It's called Screaming Songs for Men. It is absolutely the most popular. It's like 400 downloads or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that for you here in this slot since I won't be able to give you a new episode for this time. And then next week I'm going to play for you one of my least popular episodes. It was the 10th episode that I'm going to play for you next week. But this week, here is a rebroadcast. We call it a broadcast? A replay of Screaming Songs for Men. Hello, and welcome to Songs for the Struggling Artist, the blogcast. This is episode 180. That's such a nice round number. And this is the final episode of 2019. So that sort of is a nice roundness in 2 ways. I hope that you have a gorgeous 2020 and that we all find some peace in this madness. I am recording this a little bit in advance, so if things have happened, I don't know about them yet between what is today. Here I am on December the 17th. And I think I'm going to put this out on the 30th. So, I don't know. You know how it goes. The news cycle is mad. But maybe, just maybe, between this moment when I'm recording this and when this year ends, things will just be a little quieter for 5 minutes. I don't know. So, today's blog was inspired by a previous blog and a previous podcast. I think I alluded to this one in a previous episode. This podcast was inspired by the previous screaming podcast, and now we have some more screaming. I hope everybody's enjoying their screams. My friend with whom I scream, we text on Signal, which has some good emojis, and one of them is Edward Munch's scream. So we just basically text back the screaming emoji. It's delightful. So, meanwhile, here is the second in a series, I suppose, on screaming. And this one is called Screaming Songs for Men. For the podcast, I try to find a song to pair it with. A song that speaks to the content of the piece. For my piece about screaming, I searched for songs on the subject. There are a fair amount of songs with the word scream or yell in the title, but almost all of them, I found, were by white guys. I found this phenomenon curious. Why are there so many scream songs by white men? What do white guys have to scream about? Everyone listens to me when I talk. People clear a path for me when I walk down the street. When women make 70 cents, I make $1. I am at the center of most stories. I don't get it. I've really been trying to understand why we have scream, bloody gore, scream and shout, rebel yell, silent scream, let me hear you scream, etc., but not say, I'm screaming for some equal pay. Shout your Me Too out. Or reproductive justice, yell. I don't get why white male rage is a thing in music. And I also don't get why it happens also in theater, film, and TV. And not just currently. Now I might understand that white dudes feel a little threatened, but this phenomenon goes back decades. Why? With all the advantages on their side, why should they be yelling? And then I realized the rage in those songs is not an expression of powerlessness, the way my rage is. It is an expression of power. It is practice for power. It is grooming for power. It is a flex. It says, "This is my anger, watch out." And for decades, we have heeded that warning. We have been appropriately cowed by the screaming. White male rage is dangerous. It kills women every day. It kills school children. It is nothing to sneeze at, but it might be something to scream back at in art. If dudes can practice expressing their power in songs, we can too. I want scream songs for women. I want female rage films. I want to see us flexing, practicing our power. I don't want another Luca or Voices Carry. 2 songs about dealing with men's rage. 2 songs I have loved, by the way. I want scream, yell, shout, get all your rage out songs for women. I don't know if I have it in me to write one, but I really feel I should. And so should you. End note, I'm being a little bit facetious for effect here. I know men have a lot of very legitimate reasons to be angry, and most of them have to do with how the patriarchy screws men too. I don't want men to stop shouting. I just want the rest of us to be able to do it too. It's so funny. When I posted this, I feel like a lot of people were like, "Oh, these are some great angry female songs." And I was like, that is not what I am after here. Like, I know, we got some angry songs, but like women's anger songs are always about something. Like, they're like, "You bastard, you left me and now I'm going to throw your clothes out in the street," or whatever it is. Like, it's specific. It's usually specifically about usually some guy. However, I am being really reductive here, and I really literally only want to hear, I want literally the word scream, I want to hear shout, I want to hear yell, like go, scream, shout, all of it. That's what I want. And I could not find a single song by a woman that was about that. I think there were a couple of like make me scream kind of songs, like, kind of sexy screaming. But I did not find a single, like, literal scream, shout, yell type song by a woman. So if you know one, please tell me about it, because I came up short. So I wrote one. I made it my assignment. I gave myself the assignment, and I fulfilled it. So I am a good little student. I do as I instruct myself, and I wrote a screaming song. It's not quite the song that I imagined, because, I just don't think I'm not, people used to joke about me playing anything besides, like, sweet folk. So it doesn't come naturally to me. However, I gave this particular idea a shot. So there will be a song here at the end. And featured in the song, 2 ideas kind of met each other, because I was really inspired by Alex Borstein's Emmy speech when she won her Emmy Award for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She talked about her grandmother, who was in line to be killed. I think it's in Auschwitz, but I'm not entirely sure. Somewhere in the middle of the Holocaust, somewhere horrible, and apparently asked the guard what would happen to her if she stepped out of line. And he was like, "Well, somebody will shoot you. I don't have the heart to do it." But so she stepped out of line and lived to tell the tale. So that idea of just stepping out of line was really, I thought, quite lovely. And I found her speech about it moving. Check it out if you have not seen it. I'm sure it is on the YouTubes. So there's a little chunk in this song that references that idea a little bit. So enjoy that, as well as some instructions on how to scream. So before I play it for you, thank you for listening. It is my honor and privilege to get to be a voice that you listen to. So thank you. And I think I saw some what do you call it? Listener stats from Spotify, which are different than the ones from Anchor. And Anchor is supposed to aggregate. Does it work as a verb? Anyway, Anchor's supposed to collect them all from all the different platforms. But there's stuff on Spotify that wasn't referenced on Anchor. So on Spotify, it's you have listeners in Italy and a couple of other countries that Anchor also lists countries where I have listeners, and Italy was not one of them. So I also wonder if that means that there are downloads and listens that don't get registered, maybe because they're not downloads, they're streaming instead. Who knows? I don't know. But if you're one of those people who is listening, if you're hearing my voice now, I am grateful to you. Thank you. If you'd like to support the podcast, there are many ways. One is to do what you're doing now. Listen. The second is to tell somebody about it, either in person or online. Teach someone how to use a podcast. There are so many people who do not know what this is. So I have taught people, just give me your phone and I will find the podcast for you. Anyway, that's a thing. Also on the social medias to share the stuff. That's great. Subscribe, recommend, review, particularly on Apple Podcasts. It is the most powerful of these platforms. But also, wherever you're listening. So Spotify, I haven't seen a way to review or rate in Spotify, but yeah. Also Stitcher, wherever, if you got it, do it. And if you feel like you want to support the podcast with your money, that would also be fantastic. You can join my patrons over on Patreon. I am in the middle of sort of finishing up my year-end gifts to my patrons, and that is a zine. I make a zine of the best of the blog, and I collect all of the songs that were featured on the podcast to send them in one big, I think at this point it's over 2 hours worth of music. It might be almost 3. I don't know, but it's a lot of music that I then send anybody who is a patron on Patreon. So you have a day left to get this year's music if you want. If you become a Patreon, if you become a patron on Patreon before the end of the year, I will pretend that you've been with me all the year long, and I'll send you all the stuff. How about that? Yeah, so that's the premium way. The other ways to support are via PayPal or Ko-fi. And today I randomly received a card in the mail with cash, and it doesn't say who it's from. So if that's you, I didn't. There's no last name. There's no even way to send a thank you note to this person. But I appreciate it. Let me tell you. So that's nice. And let me know who you are if that was you. Thank you. So those are all the ways to support. But of course, as always, the most important one is the one you're doing right now. Thank you for listening. And another way to support is just let me know you're listening. And if you liked stuff, that's also pretty awesome. So I forget to mention that, but it means a lot to me. So thank you for those of you who do that. So here's the song. The song is, right now it's called Try Screaming, but those words don't really show up in the song. So I feel like it probably has a better name. I don't know what it is. Help me name the song. That's another thing you could do. But for now, here is Try Screaming. You've been nice, you've been kind, followed rules, didn't mind when they hurt you, that was fine. you stayed in line. Did it right, wouldn't dare cause a fuss, never share how you're wrung out with despair. You just forbear. Now to you I recommend something you can do with friends or on your own. Just open up your mouth, with sound or without, and scream. Just scream. Scream. All these years you've contained angry tears and restrained any fury that remained. You kept it